Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Ryan. Whether you're walking to work, making dinner, or just relaxing, thank you for tuning in to Speak Up. Today, we're diving into a big question. Why does it take so long to make English sentences when we speak? If you've ever paused mid-sentence trying to find the right words, you're not alone, and we're here to help.
Hi, friends. I'm Priya, and I'm so glad you're here. This episode is all about learning to speak English more fluently and faster. We know many of you can understand English well, but speaking it, that's where things get tricky. So today, we'll break it down into simple steps you can actually use every day.
We'll talk about real problems people face, like thinking in your native language or getting stuck on grammar, and how to move past them. You'll learn how to build sentences quickly without feeling nervous or confused. We'll even share a few fun hacks and practice tips you can try right away.
And don't worry, this won't be boring or too technical. We'll keep it light, real, and helpful, just like a conversation with friends. So stay with us because in just a few minutes, we're going to share a small shift that could totally change how fast you speak English.
So now that we've talked about what this episode is all about, let's get into something really important. Why so many people struggle to speak English fluently. I mean, it's not like you haven't studied English, right? Most learners know a lot of vocabulary, and many even know grammar rules. But when it's time to speak, everything just disappears. You freeze, you forget the words, and the sentence takes forever to come out. That's what we're talking about, slow sentence making in English. And trust me, you're not the only one facing it.
Exactly, Ryan. This happens because there's often a gap between knowing English and using it. Think about it. Just because you can write something perfectly doesn't mean you can say it quickly in a real conversation. One big reason is fear. People are afraid of making mistakes, so they stay quiet or speak super slowly. That fear builds up and blocks the words from coming out. It's one of the biggest mental blocks when it comes to speaking. And if we're not speaking regularly, that fear only grows.
Yeah, and let's not forget overthinking grammar. So many learners try to build the perfect sentence in their head before saying it. But conversations move fast. There's no time to sit there building grammar blocks like a puzzle. This habit of overcorrecting or waiting for the right sentence actually slows you down, and then, before you know it, you're second-guessing everything. It's one of the biggest reasons people struggle with English fluency.
That's so true. And another thing is lack of real speaking practice. You can read 100 grammar books, but if you're not using those sentences in daily life, you won't get faster. Fluency doesn't come from just understanding English. It comes from speaking it again and again, even if it's not perfect. Many people think they're not ready to speak yet, so they wait. But the truth is, you become ready by speaking, not by waiting.
Right. And speaking doesn't mean giving a speech or being formal. It can be something simple, like describing your day out loud or talking to yourself while cooking. These small habits help break the silence in your mind. And once your brain gets used to forming sentences out loud, it starts doing it faster. It becomes natural. The more you speak, the easier it gets to avoid that slow, painful pause we all hate.
And remember, fluency doesn't mean perfection. It means flow. Even native speakers pause or make small mistakes. The key is to keep going, not to stop and fix every little thing. That pressure to be perfect is one of the reasons people get stuck. If you let go of that and just focus on getting your message across, you'll start noticing real progress. So next time you hesitate, remind yourself, it's better to speak with mistakes than to stay silent with perfect grammar in your head.
Now that we've talked about the common struggles with fluency, like fear, overthinking, and lack of practice, let's move into something super practical: sentence patterns. These are a total game changer. Think of sentence patterns like templates. When you know them well, you can plug in different words and ideas without rebuilding the sentence every time. And when you do that, you start to make English sentences easily, without all that mental delay.
Yes. A lot of learners try to create brand new sentences from scratch every time they speak. That's hard work for your brain. But when you have strong sentence patterns in your memory, you don't need to build a sentence. You just follow the pattern and go. This is why sentence structure practice is so important. The more you repeat useful patterns, the less you'll need to pause and think when it's time to speak.
Exactly. Let's talk about 5 basic sentence patterns that every learner should know. These are simple but powerful. For example, I want to, I, can you, I'm going to, it's easy to, and I don't like to, I. You can use these every day with different words, like, I want to learn English. Can you help me? I'm going to work. Once these become automatic, sentence making becomes fast and smooth.
And don't think of these patterns as boring. They're actually tools that help you think less and speak more. You're not memorizing whole conversations. You're learning flexible frames that fit many situations. With enough practice, your brain stops translating from your native language and just uses the pattern. That's where real English fluency begins, not by adding more grammar rules, but by using what you already know in a faster way.
One great way to practice this is to take a single pattern and make 10 different sentences using it. Do it while walking, cooking, or waiting in line. For example, I'm going to, just fill in the blank. I'm going to study, I'm going to sleep, I'm going to visit my friend. You'll be amazed how quickly this builds fluency. This kind of repetition trains your brain to move faster without overthinking.
And the cool part is, you can use these sentence structures to talk about anything. Your job, your weekend, your future plans. You don't need complex grammar. You just need strong, repeatable patterns that your brain can grab quickly. That's how you start to feel confident, and that's how you stop freezing in conversations. So if you really want to make English sentences easily, sentence patterns are your best friend.
Now that we've looked at sentence patterns and how they help you speak faster, let's talk about something that holds many people back: translating from their native language. It might feel natural to think in your mother tongue first, and then turn it into English. But that habit really slows you down. To speak fluently, you have to think in English. That's how you shorten the time between thought and speech. The faster your brain can think in English, the faster the words come out.
Absolutely. When you try to translate every word in your head, your brain works double. First, it understands the idea in your language, then it tries to match each word in English. That causes long pauses, mistakes, and sometimes weird sentences. So if you want to stop translating English and start sounding more natural, you need to train your brain to go straight to English. It's a habit. And like any habit, it can be changed with practice.
So how do you do that? Start small. One simple English fluency exercise is to describe what you see around you in English. For example, if you're brushing your teeth, say in your head, I'm brushing my teeth. If you're cooking, say, I'm cutting vegetables. It may feel silly, but this is exactly how you start thinking in English. You're telling your brain, this is how we talk now. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes.
Yes, and here's another one. Narrate your day like a story. While walking to work or doing chores, think in English. Now I'm walking to the bus stop. I see a man reading a newspaper. This kind of practice builds your English thinking muscle. You don't need to speak out loud every time. Just let your brain process daily life in English. Over time, you'll notice you don't have to pause and translate anymore. It just flows.
Another great example is when you talk to yourself in English before bed. Review your day in simple sentences. Today was busy. I worked hard. I had coffee with my friend. Keep it natural. Don't worry about big words or grammar. The goal is to keep thinking in English. This kind of self-talk is one of the most powerful but overlooked English fluency exercises. It's like creating your own mini practice session every day.
And don't forget, you're not aiming for perfect grammar in your thoughts. The goal is flow. Thinking in English helps you build confidence, reduce hesitation, and sound more fluent. It's okay if it feels awkward at first, like learning to ride a bike. It takes time, but once you get it, you'll never go back to translation. So if you want to truly think in English, make it a daily habit. Start simple, stay consistent, and trust the process.
Now that we've talked about thinking in English, let's move to something really practical: sentence starters and connectors. This is one of the easiest ways to speak English continuously without freezing up mid-sentence. Think of sentence starters like the opening push on a bicycle. It gets you rolling. For example, if someone asks for your opinion, you don't need to think for 10 seconds. Just say, I think, or in my opinion. These phrases give your brain a few extra seconds to catch up and help you speak smoothly.
Exactly. These English sentence starters act like training wheels for your speech. And the best part is, you can use them in almost any situation. Talking about your day? Start with, today was, or I had a good day because. Reacting to something? Say, that's interesting, or sigh, or I'm not sure, but they give your brain a ready-made opening line, so you're not standing there in silence trying to come up with the perfect sentence. It's a small trick that creates a big difference.
And let's talk about connectors. Words like so, because, but, and then are simple, but they keep your thoughts flowing. Instead of stopping after one sentence, you can connect your ideas and keep talking. For example, I didn't go outside because it was raining, or I wanted to go out but I was too tired. These connectors are like bridges. They help your speech move forward without gaps.
Yes, using connectors means you're no longer speaking in short, choppy sentences. You're building longer, natural-sounding thoughts. That's how native speakers talk. You don't have to memorize huge lists. Just start with a few key ones like so, and, because, but, and use them often. Over time, this habit will help you avoid pauses in English speaking and make your sentences sound more connected and confident.
Here's something our listeners can try. Take a simple idea like I like tea and expand it using starters and connectors. Try saying, I like tea because it helps me relax. Or, in my opinion, tea is better than coffee. See how just adding a few words makes your sentence longer and more natural? This technique is a quick win for anyone looking to speak English continuously without stopping mid-thought.
Right, and one more tip. Listen to how native speakers use these tools. Watch YouTube videos, interviews, or podcasts. Notice how often they use starters like, well, I think, or the thing is, and connectors like so and but. Then copy them. This is real-life language in action. The more you use English sentence starters and connectors, the less you'll pause and the more confident you'll feel every time you speak.
Now that we've talked about using sentence starters and connectors, let's get even more practical. One of the best ways to improve your fluency is by using daily English speaking practice in your real life. You don't need a classroom or a teacher for this. Just take your everyday activities, like cooking, commuting, or shopping, and talk about them in English. For example, while cooking, say what you're doing, I'm chopping onions, or now I'll boil the rice. It might feel weird at first, but it trains your brain to speak without waiting for the perfect moment.
Yes, that's such a smart way to practice English alone. I always tell learners, your house is your first English-speaking partner. When you're getting ready in the morning, try talking to yourself in English. Say things like, I'm brushing my teeth, or I need to iron my clothes. These simple habits build your fluency over time. And you're not just learning vocabulary, you're building the confidence to speak out loud without hesitation.
And here's another powerful method, the shadowing technique. It's simple, but really effective. You listen to a native speaker and repeat exactly what they say in real time. You can use a short video, a podcast, or even a movie scene. Just play one sentence, pause, and repeat it in the same tone and speed. It helps your pronunciation, rhythm, and speaking speed. Plus, it forces your brain to focus, just like in a real conversation.
That's right. The shadowing technique works wonders because it teaches you how English really sounds, not just how it looks on paper. And you don't need hours. Just 5 to 10 minutes a day is enough. Choose topics you enjoy, like sports, cooking, or news, and mimic the speakers. Over time, you'll notice your accent improving, and you'll speak more naturally without overthinking grammar rules.
You can also try role-playing exercises, even if you're alone. Pretend you're at a cafe and order food. Hi, I'd like a coffee, please. Or imagine you're asking for directions. Excuse me, can you tell me how to get to the train station? If you've got a friend who's also learning English, take turns playing roles. Practicing in different scenarios gets you ready for real conversations.
Yes, role play is fun, and it removes that fear of speaking in public. You don't need to wait for someone to talk to you in English. Create those moments for yourself every single day. Whether you're walking to the store or waiting in line, use that time to practice. The more you speak during regular activities, the faster you'll improve. That's what daily English speaking practice is all about, using what you already know in real life.
We've talked about practicing in everyday situations, but now let's go a little deeper. A lot of learners try to be perfect every time they speak, and that actually slows them down. You know, trying to find the right word, the perfect grammar, it blocks the flow. That's why we always say, aim to be fluent, not perfect in English. You can still communicate clearly even if your sentence isn't 100% grammatically perfect. Fluency is about being understood, not sounding like a textbook.
Yes, and I meet so many learners who are afraid to speak because they worry about making mistakes. But here's the truth. People understand you even if you make small grammar errors. What matters more is confidence. So if you want to speak English without fear, give yourself permission to mess up. Mistakes are part of learning. The goal is to keep the conversation going, not to speak like an English professor.
That's such an important point. And here's something practical. Think of your speaking rhythm like a dance. Use the slow, fast, slow technique. Start slow when you're opening a thought. Speed up a bit as you move through the idea, and then slow down again at the end. This helps your listener follow what you're saying, and it gives you time to think and adjust. That way, you're balancing accuracy versus fluency without freezing up.
Exactly. When you slow down too much just to be accurate, your brain starts overthinking. But when you go too fast, without structure, you can lose clarity. So it's really about finding your natural pace. One thing that helps is practicing short sentences until they feel automatic. Then you can link them together and speak with more rhythm and flow, without worrying so much about every tiny mistake.
And here's another thing. You don't always need to correct yourself mid-sentence. Many learners stop and go back every time they say something wrong, and that actually breaks their fluency. Just keep going. You can fix it next time. The more you speak, the more naturally accurate your sentences will become. So again, focus on being fluent, not perfect. Progress matters more than perfection.
So true. Think of your fluency journey like learning to ride a bike. At first, you're wobbly and unsure, but with practice, your balance improves, and suddenly you're riding smoothly. Speaking English is the same. You might fall a few times, but if you keep going and speak without fear, your accuracy and fluency will grow together. Don't wait for the perfect sentence. Just speak, mistakes and all.
Now that we've talked about balancing speed and accuracy, let's look at something simple, but powerful. One of the best ways to speak English faster is through repetition. Not just any repetition, though, spaced repetition. That means instead of repeating the same sentence 10 times in one day, you repeat it once today, again tomorrow, and then a few days later. This technique helps your brain remember better because you're reminding it just before it forgets.
Exactly. And to make that even more effective, start building what I like to call a sentence bank. These are short, go-to phrases and expressions you can use often, like, that makes sense, or I'm not sure, but I think. Write them down, repeat them regularly, and use them in real life. This kind of English sentence practice helps you respond faster during conversations without having to build every sentence from scratch.
Right. And think about this. When you practice the same useful phrases again and again, they become automatic. You don't need to think. Your mouth just says them. That's what people mean when they talk about building muscle memory in language. Start with short, practical sentences like, "Can you help me?" or "What do you mean?" These may sound simple, but repeating them daily creates fluency without effort.
One tip I always give my students is record your sentence bank on your phone. Just your voice, speaking them clearly. Then play it during a walk or while you're cooking. Listening to your own voice can help with pronunciation and confidence. Over time, this kind of repetition in English speaking will train your brain to treat those phrases like second nature.
That's a great point. And remember, it's not about memorizing long speeches. You just need strong building blocks. When you repeat, "I'd like to," or "Have you ever," you're creating starting points. Then you can plug in different ideas to build sentences faster. The more these patterns are repeated, the less time you spend thinking, and the more time you spend actually speaking.
Absolutely. This kind of daily English sentence practice doesn't take hours. Just 5 to 10 minutes a day, is enough if you stay consistent. Over time, you'll notice your responses become quicker, your confidence grows, and your fluency becomes natural. It's small steps, taken again and again, that lead to real results.
Finally, let's talk about some great tools and simple hacks that can really speed up your English speaking journey. These days, there are plenty of English fluency tools that make practicing easier and more fun. For example, using a voice recorder on your phone lets you listen back and hear your own progress. Flashcards are great for learning new phrases, and apps like ELSA or Talk English help you practice pronunciation and fluency anytime, anywhere.
Yes! Another technique I love is mirror practice. It might feel a little funny at first, but speaking in front of a mirror builds your confidence. You can watch your mouth move, your expressions, and get comfortable hearing your own voice. It's like having a conversation with yourself, which prepares you to speak naturally with others. These small habits add up big time.
And remember, these tools and hacks are here to help, not to replace real practice. Combine them with daily speaking, listening to native speakers, and using what you've learned in real life. The more you practice, the more natural it feels. And the more natural it feels, the faster and easier your English will become.
So that's a wrap on today's episode. We hope these tips help you build faster sentence-making skills and speak English fluently with confidence. Remember, every step you take, no matter how small, moves you closer to your goal.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today on Speak Up. Keep practicing, stay curious, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. We're here cheering you on every step of the way.